Producers that are consistently good at finishing music aren't more creative. They're not more skilled. They're not more talented. So in this video, I'm going to show you the boring stuff. I'm going to show you the behind the scenes systems and prep work that if you were to watch this video to the end and actually apply these things, then this would genuinely make you better at finishing music. It's not going to be easy. And I want to share with you 5 or so boring truths or realities that I've found over the last 6 years of coaching music producers to be the most important. Truth number 1. When you start making music, it's fun. It's supposed to be fun. That's the point. That's the purpose of it. It's creative expression. You're having fun playing around with sounds and experimenting and maybe expressing yourself in the meantime. So when you're in this stage, having fun and enjoying the process is the goal, right? So anything that goes against that, you don't need to do. I would call this type of person a hobbyist producer. Now, what happens in this is people over the course of years, they start to transition, they start to get a little bit more serious about it. But what they don't realize is that when you want to take this more seriously, fun doesn't cut it anymore. It can't just always be fun anymore. You can't be inspired by only having fun. And so one day you'll get to this point where music production suddenly starts to feel boring and frustrating and uninspiring. And then you'll look back upon when you started and be like, why was it more fun when I knew less? And then the self-doubt starts to creep in. Then you start second guessing yourself. I see this every day. This is why I have a job. Joking. This is your music production process. The red is the creative work, right? And the blue here is the boring admin behind the scenes stuff that isn't creative. When you go and watch the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, this struck a chord with me because all you see is the red. All you see is the creative flow and the creative expression. You're like, oh, that's what I want to do. But you also have the blue, and this is just as important. And as you can see in this diagram here, they're happening at the same time, right? So as you get more serious, you have to do more of this blue stuff to the point where it completely distracts from all of the red stuff. And then that creativity starts to get lost behind. What you have to realize though, the creative work over here cannot exist without the boring work. But what you can do is separate it. Separate it over here. Yeah, there's going to be a bit of overlap always. But if you separate it out, then it allows you more uninterrupted red creative time over here. So this first truth, the creative work just does not exist without the boring work. And you don't know where or when this is going to leach into your creative work either. The things you avoid here are going to show up here, whether you like it or not. That's just going to happen. If you avoid sound design, it's going to show up downstream in the form of like you trying to do an arrangement. You need a new idea. You don't have any sound design stuff to go from, and you have to sit there and do the boring stuff then. Truth number 2. A lot of producers feel like when you structure something that's creative, it's a buzzkill. It kills the vibe. But there is a reason why I can't improvise chords, jazz chords on the piano. I can't just rock up to a jazz group and start playing chords and start playing with everyone because I haven't practiced the jazz chord progressions. I don't know all of the different modes and the secondary dominants and how I can move between them and having the feeling of all of those things and what chords I like and what chords I can break the scale. Like there is a lot of technicality behind this, and I could go ahead and learn all of these things. It would take me some time. It wouldn't be interesting. It would be really boring, but I don't really want to, at least not now, maybe in the future. You have to go through the weeds in order to get to the other side where you can then express yourself freely and creatively. And when you have systems and structure around handling the boring stuff, so let's say you woke up and every morning you did 20 minutes of scale practice, and that was just part of your routine, eventually you would have the freedom to express yourself. Let's say I'm in the DAW, I'm arranging a track, right? And I'm listening to this part of the arrangement, listening along, and I'm like, okay, I think I need a new element at this part. I need a new thing that comes in here. If I have to then pull up my synth and scroll through presets and try and find the right sound that I want. And then I find the sound, then I start tweaking it and I just start changing it and adapting it. And then I have to process it. If I have to do all of these things, then all of the creative flow that I had in the arrangement is just gone. If my structure allows me to be able to get through the arrangement and not have to do that, then that's going to enhance the creativity, right? The structure is what allows the creativity to be more potent, to be more expressive. Now, truth number 3 is a difficult one because it's got nothing to do with you personally. It is how it is. And it just happens. It's one of those things that if you understand how it works, then you can kind of avoid it or get around it. But if you don't understand, then it's going to be happening to you whether you like it or not. Now, I've got a background in science, evolution and genetics. So I'm not trying to say that as a brag or a flex. I apologize in advance if this becomes evolutionary. It's this piece of Buddhist wisdom that particularly sticks with me. And it goes like something like this. I'm definitely going to paraphrase it, so bear with me here. But if you were transported to this place that had absolute nothingness, you had no memories, no thoughts of who you are or what you were. So you're in this infinite nothingness and it's just white around you. And you look over to your left and there's this shimmering, beautiful golden light. And you look over to your right and there's this darkness over to your right. Which way do you go? What do you do? As a human, you naturally reach out for that beautiful golden light and you're going to push away or avoid the darkness. And that is just a matter of human nature. That's survival. That's how we were programmed to be. Avoiding things that we don't like is natural. This happens with all of us. We all do this. And in music production, if you're to get better at all of the things that you need to do, then not only do you have to not avoid those things, but you have to self-will yourself to seek them out. Because the things that you avoid are the things that ultimately become the gaps in your knowledge. And with music production, it's a very holistic skill. You need to learn all of the small, minute things. And if there is one gap that you avoid, that you jump over, that a lot of the time is the thing that actually holds people back from that pure creative expression that they're looking for, from that desire to be able to finish music whenever they want. That's the thing that's actually holding them back. Self-learning entirely and utterly by yourself is flawed. Okay, let's go into something that's a little bit more actionable now. Truth number 4. Producers that have a hard time finding consistency or find themselves kind of spiraling into self-doubt or plateauing or not improving over a long period of time. It's got nothing to do with how skilled you are. The difference between you and me and Fred again, he's not inspired any more than I or you could be inspired. He's not making perfect music every time, as much as it might feel like that. What he does have on us, though, is the understanding, the resources, the tools, the knowledge, the experience, the practice, the studio access, the confidence, so that when a good idea does inevitably come along, he can act on it. He can actually turn that into music. He can turn those ideas that he have into finished songs that actually get the platform, right? Most producers aren't getting stuck because they're lacking the ideas. They're getting stuck because once they have the idea, to then turn that idea and take it through all of the minute little steps along the process to then finish it is a mammoth effort. And there's so much friction there that it's just never going to happen. And if you never finish the stuff, you don't build the evidence, and then you don't have the trust in your process, and you don't build the self-confidence. It's all a flow-on effect. They all interact together to make this stuff happen. If you decided to build a house, what would be the first thing that you would do? Would you go grab a hammer? Or would you go to an architect and start planning? Or go find a lot that you can purchase or buy or build upon? I can tell you right now, it wouldn't be reaching for the hammer. If I was to diagram this out again, and I'm going to keep using my red circles as my explanation for creative work. Let's say I've got some creative work. I started my track. Then I'm going to do some prep work after that. And the prep work then allows me some more space to do more creative work. So this here allows me to focus on my creative work. And then I'm going to do some more prep to organize, and then I'm going to go and do my creative work again. It feels more boring to do it this way, but it pays off. The producers who finish music consistently, they're reducing the friction because they're preparing, have all of the tools in front of them to the point where they can then just be creative. Truth number 5. Most producers obsess over the techniques, the plugins, the shortcuts, the tips, how to make a really good kick drum, how to make a bass line. All of these, whilst fundamental and whilst important, they are the short term. They are the dopamine. They are the small things that actually don't make a big difference to how you go about finishing and expressing yourself. The ability for you to actually finish stuff comes from clarity. Clarity removes the overwhelm. And I have a very, very deep understanding of this because I have ADHD. And if I don't have structure or clarity about what I'm doing, if when I sit down to make music, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not going to do anything. It's either chaos or it's ordered. Most producers that feel overwhelmed, it's usually because their process hasn't properly been internalized and it only vaguely exists in their head. They're relying on intuition. Clarity doesn't come easy. It's not an easy thing to do, but if you want to become more consistent, if you really want this, here's how I would do it for you. This is what you can do. Number 1, start out by writing down everything that you do. Go through your music production process. What do you do first? Then what do you do next? All of the things that you do when you're making music. What are they? The more granular you can be with this, the better. But this is not going to be an easy thing to do. This is probably going to be quite hard because you're like, okay, what are all of the things? How can you just write down all of the things? It's a big task. Number 2, once you've written all of them down, order them into a way that makes sense for you and try and group things together that you might be repeating. You might find this hard too because it's kind of hard to know which order is going to make the most sense for you, but you can kind of go based off this as well and have bouts of creative time and bouts of more admin, boring, analytical time in between. Map out your process into stages, phases, and checkpoints. The stages are the overarching categories of things. The phases are how you break up those categories, and the checkpoints are the things that happen between. And then 4th, but most important, go through the process, try it out, experiment with it, and then iterate. What works, what doesn't work, remove the things that don't work, figure out structure around the things that you need to learn, and emphasize the things that do work. Now, the way that I do this on this channel is I'm just going to give you my process, and you can take that and then adapt it to your own. Now, that is the most important point. We'll get back to that in a moment, but I'm not asking for anything in return. It is free. It's in the top line of the description. Just sign up your email. I'll send it to you, and it'll come to you over the course of 3 days. And each day is going through a different step of the process, diving into detail about what that step entails. And you need to take this and adapt it. Yeah, you need to change it to make it work for you. Because if I just give you my process, that's not going to work. In fact, the best way to actually make this stick for you is to build the process as you're doing it. Use it and build it at the same time. This is exactly how I teach people. This is what goes on when I'm teaching. And I have a 4-week-long intensive program called Play It Loud, which does exactly this. It goes through all of the steps of the process and walks you through them so you can build it and iterate and practice it and get feedback on it all at the same time. It genuinely works, and I would love for you to be part of it. So if this is something that you are interested in, there's a wait list in the description. All in all, I want you to think about and map out your process. What is and isn't working for you? How can you do the boring stuff? How can you emphasize the boring stuff into one spot and organize this all so that you can actually do the creative stuff as well? So if you've got to the end of the video, I don't know how long you've been watching YouTube for, but you should go do that. But if you want to stay around, I've got a hell of a lot of resources on this channel about building your process. This video that I'm going to link right here is a full deep dive into all of the minute steps that go into my process so you can use that, adapt that, and start to make it useful for yourself.